You want to start today?
You just put me on the spot.
I did just put him on the spot.
I'm sorry. I wasn't ready for that. You're always the starter.
Okay, fine. I'll start. Hope you're all doing well today. So we just wanted to fill you in on our pastors that you've been praying for. We talked to them a little bit this morning. We're able to send the one who's serving in the military, the Ukrainian military, some more funds for his family. So that was really good. We found out that last night he was able to spend the night with his family, which is amazing. So we really thank the Lord for that. I'm sure that was a huge encouragement to his heart and also his family's heart just to have him with them again. So continue to keep them in your prayers. Our other dear friend who we'll call him Pastor Z, who's in Russian occupied territory, who has the 7 orphans that are living with their family, the one who's going around purchasing and delivering food and supplies for his community. Just be praying for his heart. He's, I think, like a lot of Ukrainians, they're just getting war weary, which is completely understandable. Like, this has been going on for 19 days now of just living in war, in every day, in fear for your life, your family's lives. Hearing about, people who don't have any food, and he's trying to scramble to get food to take to people, and just 19 days, like, I can't even imagine. It doesn't stop, like here, we're engrossed in it and we're doing everything that we can to help, but we can take breaks, we can sit down to dinner and eat and, not really kind of have it in our faces, in our reality, and they can't. It's just inescapable. So just pray for Pastor Z, pray for all of the Ukrainians as they're getting weary, they're getting exhausted, but they literally, they cannot stop fighting. Their very existence and survival depends upon them just gathering up all their strength and continuing to keep going. So just, pray for their energy and their strength and their joy. You want to talk about the other pastors?
Yeah, I just had one further thought. One of the strategies in southern cities like Kherson and Mariupol and Melitopol and some of these places that have either been completely occupied or are slowly just being cut off. Russia wants to install puppet regimes in those places. So you might have heard on the news that there is kidnappings happening of government officials and those kinds of things. They often in those towns and in those cities, there's opposition parties, just like there are here, except some of them are Russian-backed parties. So what they'll do is, if there's a democratically elected party in a certain city, Russia will seek those that are hi from Melitopol. They will seek to install a governmental figure that is sympathetic to the Russian cause, and then try to rally sympathy and try to build sort of this straw man government within the territory. So basically, like a place like Kherson, they will try to build another republic, like in Luhansk or Donetsk, that Donbass area. They will try to prop up a new government and bring the local populace under Russian control, but that they can sort of be the puppet master with the strings, and so it'll be Ukrainians sympathetic to Russia that are in control of the immediate governmental areas. So I was just thinking about that, and we don't know exactly what's going to transpire. Obviously, there's fierce warfare that's happening, but just be in your prayer closet for um, just the misinformation that even the people on the ground are believing or seeing, because Russia wants the local populace then to be at war with one another. And when peace and when food are running low, um, then people get more and more desperate. More looting happens, more hurt happens, and so just continue to pray as our pastor folks are witnessing to the people about God's truth and feeding their bellies and their hearts. Pray for people as they become more desperate to continue to be unified with one another, um, and that truth will win. Even as hardship comes, that the desire for freedom and the desire to stay together with purpose is a focused cause for them. Um, I was talking to Pastor who is outside of the city of Odessa. He is doing safe. He wrote to me. Oh, hi, Sugar Plum. Wrote to me and said, this was on Friday. Hey, we just took a whole bunch of people across the Moldovan border, and now I'm home for supper. And so that was just a really good news. Today, he said that he's preparing for a trip to take 27, and his van, it's obviously a big van, can fit 19. So it's going to be a ride. And how long does it take for him?
I think he wrote 7 in the morning to 6, so 12, almost 12 hours.
So I guess that's how long it's taking the trip for him to get there, the lines, etc. So at any rate, be praying for him as that situation is continuing to be very difficult. I haven't heard from Pastor A today. It's been very hard. He's had many people in his home. Some are staying there permanently. Some are just in and out because he has a wood stove, and there's not any natural gas to heat houses. So he has this back and forth as well, of people coming in and out and trying to feed them, etc.
I wanted to also update y'all on my friend who I've talked about, who has the 2 small children. They were in a city close to Mariupol. If you've been watching the news, you know that Mariupol has been horrendous. That's where I think the number is over 2,000. I think it's over 2,500 now. Civilians have been murdered. The Russians have been shelling maternity hospitals and kindergartens. Children have been killed, and I think it's safe to say the worst of the genocide is honestly what it is happening in Mariupol. So a friend of mine was in a city close to there, has 2 very small children, and of course she was, terrified for their lives, and they wanted to escape as soon as possible. So today they made the decision to run. So they have a car, and they thankfully we were praying for them, and the Lord's hand was on them and gave them safe passage, and they were able to get out of that area, Heroim Slava, where the fighting is really bad, and they're on their way to safety, more safety. Obviously, nowhere in Ukraine right now is really safe. And that brings me to my family, who is in Western Ukraine, the city of Lviv. A lot of news broadcasts have been happening from Lviv because that's where the bulk of journalists and even hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians have fled, because Lviv is very close to the Polish border. And I think up until this point, it's really kind of been one of the safer places in Ukraine until yesterday. There's a very large peacekeeping military base near Lviv, and yesterday it was shelled. I can't even remember how many times, and dozens of people on the base were killed and injured, and that was only about 20 miles from my house. I've been on that base many times. I've sung there for the troops. So it's definitely getting closer to home. Obviously we don't know what will happen now if the Russians plan to continue moving further westward. Only time will tell, but just thank you for your prayers for my family. Please continue to keep them in your prayers, in my city, all my friends there in that city. And now, it's not just our city, but my city is now responsible, trying to take care of Ukrainians from tons of other cities who have fled there for safety, and now no one feels as safe there. Дякую вам так само. Дуже дякую. The Trident sweatshirts. So how that came about, if you don't know what I'm talking about, in our last update video, we were wearing them. You can see what we were talking about. So how that came about, honestly, is Jess and I just wanted, obviously, to express our love for Ukraine. And in one of those ways, which we wanted to do that, was just to have a sweatshirt or something that we could wear out and just show solidarity in our community with Ukraine. And so we were looking online. There are tons of different designs, but nothing that we were necessarily really wanting. And also a lot of them, for instance, on Amazon or whatever, are being produced en masse right now by China. And we just didn't really feel comfortable with that, of giving our money to Chinese companies for them to profit off of genocide in Ukraine, in essence. And so we really didn't want to, just buy from any old, shop who's just trying to jump on the bandwagon right now and catch the Ukraine wave and make a buck, or, or something. And so we have a friend who has his own screen printing business, and we were like, you know what we want is actually really simple. Let's just go to him, see how much it will cost to just print up a shirt for each of us with this design that we want with the Ukrainian trident. And that's how this came about. And so we went to him and he made the shirts for us, but then he was like, hey, if you think anyone else, of your friends or whatever would want these sweatshirts, I would be willing to produce these sweatshirts and donate the profits to your family and friends in Ukraine. And so we were floored by his just...
Excuse me. There was ill-timed.
You didn't have to hold it back. Poor guy. Whew. That's the worst thing, to need to sneeze and not.
Generosity. His generosity.
So we were blown away by his generosity to offer to do that. So he is working on, he has the ability to set up a web page where it will just be the sweatshirts that we were wearing. They may be available also in a t-shirt design, but it's just going to be that simple, just the Ukrainian trident, which is the symbol of Ukraine, and it stands for freedom. And so it's just going to be that design on black or white sweatshirt or t-shirt, I think is what we're going to do. Just very simple production, and then he's going to donate the profits to the people that we support in Ukraine. So he's working on getting that webpage ready. Hopefully by the end of this week, it'll be up. I'll be posting on my social media pages with the link when it's up, and you can order there. We don't know exactly, we're not a clothing company. So we're probably only going to run this for about a week or 2 weeks at max, most likely. So yeah, so check my social media pages. We'll, in one of our updates, once it's up, we'll tell you that the link is up, and you can go and get sweatshirts, yes, but that's not the main point. It's also another way that you can support Ukraine, to show your solidarity by wearing the sweatshirt. And then also, like I said, the profits will go to our loved ones in Ukraine. So, and do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I just, as Bria said, Pastor Z and the others, they're really, really tired. I can't understate that. As things drag on, they're just people. They serve an incredible God. They have the Holy Spirit within them. But especially in some of these cities in the south, as well as Kharkiv and some of the others that are under siege all of the time, it's really desperate, and sort of where our media and our ability to take in war news, it's sort of like, okay, this is still happening, and our interest sort of wanes, the desperation grows, and so just be continuing to pray, if you have a prayer list or whatever, because as our interest wanes from a media standpoint, where we get just exhausted from hearing about Ukraine day in and day out, the people are in more and more danger, and their situation becomes more and more dangerous and desperate. So I just wanted to call attention to that, because I see that even in my own mind, where I'm like, okay, another article, another thought, another this or that, and I'm like, I'm tired of this, and I have to be vigilant and prayerful.
And remember that they can't escape it.
Right.
So we want to continue to stand with them and support them, and not forget what they're going through day in and day out. So in closing, I just wanted to address again, for those Americans watching, or Canadians, or wherever you happen to be from, I just want to address again, I'm just really honestly floored at the rhetoric, some of the rhetoric that I'm hearing around me, that I know as someone who lived in Ukraine for a very long time, is Russian propaganda. But I think a lot of people here in the States and in Canada and Western countries don't realize that's what it is. So I saw something this morning on social media that was so good, and I shared it, and I won't read you the whole thing, but I just wanted to read you what I wrote, and just encourage you to question. I think that it's an important principle for everything in life now, but just question everything that you hear, and question the source from which you're hearing it. Because I'm hearing, news media and people being interviewed on news, and YouTubers, and even just, everyday people in the grocery store talking about Ukraine. And these people have never been to Ukraine in their lives. They have zero relationships with anyone in Ukraine. And yet they're speaking as though they are experts on the subject. And I know, coming from Ukraine, that what they are saying is straight out of the Kremlin, and is part of the information war that Russia has been waging against Ukraine for centuries. So I just wanted to make y'all aware of this, so that you know kind of what to be listening for, so that you can recognize Russian propaganda when you hear it, because it is important. Words are important. Truth is important, especially, and Russia knows that, and that's why they wage such a intense and effective informational war against the people that they consider their enemies. So you can read this post on my social media if you want, but I had written, the Russian propaganda machine is strong. I never fully realized how strong until the last 19 days. It's not confined to the borders of Russia, it's here in America. News outlets, celebrities, and everyday people. Most, I believe, don't have any idea they're regurgitating Kremlin lies. As someone who lived in Ukraine for nearly 30 years and grew up there, please allow me to set the record straight on a few things. No, Ukraine and Russia are not brother nations. No, it's not just Putin. Currently, around 71% of Russians in Russia approve of and support Putin and his actions in Ukraine. No, Ukrainian is not the same as Russian. No, the Ukrainian Revolution of 2014 was not led by the US government. No, Ukrainians do not want close ties with Russia or any ties, and I think they've made that abundantly clear to the world, especially in the last 19 days. One thing that the person had written who I reposted that I thought was very profound was, I think one of the biggest lies is that Ukraine and Russia are brothers, or at least cousins. They're family, they're related. And this Ukrainian wrote, if you don't think of a rapist and his victim as a family, then you shouldn't think of Russians and Ukrainians as brother nations. It's the same thing. Russia has persecuted Ukraine for centuries. They are not brothers. They are not cousins. They are not related. And that is why Ukraine wants so desperately to sever all ties with Russia and break free once and for all. So just keep your ears open for things like that you might hear. And if you hear anyone in your friend group or in your surroundings making any comments to that end, you can, I think there's a polite and gracious way to correct them and just have them question their source of where that information is coming from, and direct people to the truth, because it is important. People's lives depend on it.
That doesn't mean that they necessarily, there might be one family that has people in Ukraine and then another family that has people in Russia. You're not necessarily talking about that, where, Bria might have a cousin or a sister that lives in Russia, or you might have an aunt and uncle that lives in Ukraine. They do have people that live in both places, right? Like, like for me, it's the Polies. I might have members of the Poli clan that lives in Russia and members of the Poli clan that live in Ukraine.
What? I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're getting at.
Well, you're saying that they're not brother nations, but people do share family members that live in both places.
Sure, but as nations, they're not.
Right, and that's the distinction that I'm making.
Okay.
Like geopolitically and economically, Russia has taken full advantage of Ukraine, but not given anything back. But that doesn't mean that people that share family ties don't live in both places, because they do. But on the larger scale of politics and economics, Russia has always sought to take the best of Ukraine and give nothing back. Is that what you mean? Yes.
Anyway.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Not really.
Okay. We'll discuss more later.
Thanks for watching. Yeah, just keep praying, keep supporting. Even if you've done it already, you can still writing your politicians, your congressmen, your senators, the White House is still effective. It just allows our politicians here in America or in Canada to know that we are still fighting for Ukraine. We still are interested in this. We still want them to be involved. We don't want them to forget or to turn their backs on Ukraine. So that's important. Yeah, just keep supporting them as they continue to fight.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.